Picture a couple in their kitchen. They're debating credit card bills or grocery budgets. It's heated, hands are moving, and voices are raised. It is incredibly easy to watch an exchange like this and assume the relationship is on rocky ground. We tend to view fighting as a symptom of a failing partnership. Yet, behavioral scientists can observe just 5 minutes of this exact kitchen argument and predict whether this couple will ultimately divorce, with over 90% accuracy. That prediction has nothing to do with what they are actually debating, nor does it factor in how often they have these fights. Instead, the researchers are counting. There is a rigid mathematical formula embedded in the subtext of their conversation. The disagreement itself is completely fine. What determines the survival of the relationship is the invisible scoring system operating beneath their words. This data originates from the University of Washington, led by psychological researcher John Gottman. Starting in the decades prior to his 1994 book, What Predicts Divorce, Gottman's lab launched an exhaustive longitudinal study, tracking 700 couples over a continuous 14-year period. Over the following decades, Dr. Gottman and Dr. Julie Schwartz-Gottman replicated and verified these exact findings through the Gottman Institute. Their methodology was intensely granular. Scientists videotaped couples having conflict discussions and systematically coded every microscopic behavior, tallying every sigh, smile, and shifted posture. Following those same couples for 14 years proved that these tiny, observable communication habits in a controlled lab directly dictate whether a marriage thrives or dissolves in the real world. This animated diagram shows the exact mathematical target they discovered: the 5-to-1 ratio of relationship stability. During any conflict, a negative interaction, like a sharp criticism or a defensive remark, carries massive weight. To counter it, you need specific positive behaviors, a brief moment of humor, a gentle touch, or explicitly validating their point by saying, "I see why that frustrates you." The math is unforgiving. It requires exactly 5 of these positive interactions to neutralize the emotional damage of a single negative one. Couples who sin, it manifests as eye-rolling, heavy sarcasm, or a general dismissiveness that signals a lack of respect for a partner's basic worth. Most people establish their default conflict habits during their first serious long-term relationships, which typically occur in their 20s. These early patterns often persist into every subsequent commitment. This line graph illustrates how that relationship damage compounds over time. What begins on the left side of the axis as low-level, habitual sarcasm slowly curves upward, compounding across a decade of arguments until it hits divorce-level contempt. Left alone, that early pattern of sarcasm matures into the systemic, relationship-destroying habit that Gottman's data identifies as the terminal stage of a marriage. There is an important boundary condition to this research. The 5-to-1 ratio only applies to relationships that are actually worth preserving. If the root issue in a partnership is abuse, fundamental incompatibility, or an absolute refusal to change, hitting a ratio target will not fix the problem. It will only mask it, potentially keeping a person invested in a situation they need to exit. For healthy relationships, the researchers suggest a very specific test for your next disagreement. Deliberately name one specific thing you appreciate about your partner, either right before or right after making your point. Then, step back and track whether you actually managed to do it. Success in a long-term partnership relies on keeping that 5-to-1 score actively in your own hands.